Welcome to Discover How to Design Your Personal Career Plan. My name is Julie Perrine. I'm the founder and CEO of All Things Admin, and we are delighted to have you joining us for today's training event. When you think about it, all of the important things in life have plans. When you build a house, you have a detailed blueprint with layer upon layer of details for how to bring the vision for your new home to life. When you landscape your yard, you create a plan before you sink a lot of money into plants and materials and landscaping designs. And it's no different at the office. We put hours of effort into planning corporate initiatives, office moves, project plans, even event plans. If you've ever coordinated an annual fundraising campaign, an executive offsite, or even an all-employee appreciation engagement, you know that it requires lots of meetings, emails, checklists, and effort to get it executed successfully. And on the personal side of our lives, we assemble meal plans and vacation plans, and sometimes even elaborate weekend plans. So why don't more of us have career plans than we do? Of all of the important things in our lives that we plan for, our careers should top the priority list. Yet it's the last thing many people think about until they're forced to create a professional development plan or develop annual goals at review time. And it's time for us to change this trend. So before I share a few specific tips on getting your career plan started today, I want to share a little bit about my background specifically and why I am such a strong advocate of strategic career planning for administrative professionals. I have worked in the administrative profession for over 25 years now, and I've held every position from receptionist to secretary to administrative assistant to executive assistant to the president. And throughout much of my early career, I've progressed up the ladder without a lot of hassle. But my career was happening to me instead of me proactively guiding it where I wanted it to go. And I'm not even sure I really understood the opportunities or full potential that existed in this career field when I first started working in it. Then one day I was approached about applying for an executive assistant position, and that became the real career changer for me. Taking that job started a complete shift in my thinking and my overall approach to career planning, because I ended up working in one of the best executives that I had ever supported in my career up to that point. But it was in one of the most toxic work environments that I had ever worked in. My previous strategies for working successfully as an administrative professional were challenged on a daily basis. And as I settled into that new position, one of the other executives that I also supported asked me one day, "Why are you satisfied with just being an admin? You have some of the best business sense of anyone I've ever worked with, and you could do so much more than just admin work." And I was like, wow, I'd never really thought about that. And I told her, but this is what I love to do. It's what I do the best. I love making executives look better than they've ever looked before. And she appreciated that, but she saw something that I did not. I was not actively pursuing a career path. I was just working a job. And I was working it very well, but I was stifling my potential opportunities, and I didn't even realize it. And this is when my mindset began to shift. What were the opportunities out there that I was completely ignoring? And then a few months later, it happened. I found out that my executive, the best one I'd ever supported, was going to be leaving the company. And the only thing that had made working there bearable was working for and supporting him. And I also realized that if I didn't want to waste the executive support experience and the skills that I had developed up to that point, I'd better get my career in gear. So it was time for me to create a plan for what I was going to do next. This wasn't something anybody in HR or my executive or anybody I worked with could do for me. I had to figure it out. And from there, I began creating my first strategic career plan for making the shift from corporate to self-employment as a virtual assistant. My husband and I created what we called the JTF. It was the Julie Transition Fund. And we began saving as much money as we could. So I'd have about a 6-month cushion to get my business up and running once I left my corporate job. And for the first time, I had a plan. I could see where I was headed next. I knew what my plan was and the potential that existed for me as an administrative professional. And that was when I officially made the shift from reactive to proactive when it came to my own career professional development. That was also when I became the CEO of my career. And so today, one of the things I want to challenge each of you to do, if you haven't already, is to claim the title of CEO of your own career. And as we talk about strategic planning, I want you to think about your career and how you've approached it so far. But I also want you to think about what you may need to change in your approach moving forward and what it would truly mean if you claimed the title of CEO of your own career. What would you do differently? How would you treat career decisions as the CEO? How you think about yourself matters immensely. The self-talk and the words that you think in your head make a huge difference in the outcomes, because how you think about yourself is also how you project yourself to others. How you think about yourself is reflected in your work product. And if you shift from reactive to proactive thinking in your career, you'll start making similar shifts in your day-to-day work. And when you are more proactive in managing your workload, you're going to experience less stress, more success, and be prepared for other opportunities when they present themselves. It also matters because at any moment, every single one of us is one single business decision away from having our professional life turned upside down, from having the rug ripped right out from under us. It doesn't matter if you are self-employed like I am or working corporately like many of you are. Your administrative career cannot be left to chance. Success-minded admins don't put their careers on autopilot and just hope things work out. We have to create a proactive strategic plan that lays out the details, timelines, and our desired outcomes, not only to reach our goals, but to propel our careers forward. And this is true for anyone. So whether you're in a position today that you absolutely love, or maybe you feel like your career has stalled out a bit, a strategic career plan can help you in both situations. And it will help you be better prepared to make the transition if or when a new opportunity presents itself, and if or when one of those unexpected business decisions impacts you adversely. I started as a receptionist, and now I'm not only running my own company, but I've written 3 books, published several ebooks, and I've developed all kinds of products and training to help administrative professionals. And I've traveled to places I never imagined, training assistants in countries around the world. And my career started as an assistant, and it grew from there. Your path and your desired outcomes may be different from mine, and they absolutely should be. There are no 2 career plans that should ever look the same. But the things that you must pursue and the activities that you must engage in to achieve career advancement and fulfillment are the same. You need a vision of where you want your career to take you, a plan of action to follow, and the drive and ambition to make it happen. And I believe that this profession, the administrative profession, is one of the best professions a person can start in, because whether you choose to stay in this line of work or step into another professional track at some point, the admin role is one of the best training and preparatory positions within a company when you fully engage with it. So where you're at today is simply the starting point. You need a plan of action to make things happen from here. And it's important to note that even if you keep doing exactly what you're doing today, you still need a career plan, because the technology and trends around you are not going to stay the same as they are today. They evolve on a daily basis. So to even stay relevant in our positions, it's going to involve mapping out a plan of attack for keeping our skills up to date and advancing for the needs of the 21st century office, even if we just want to do more of what we're already doing. If you want to take a quick little career preparedness quiz to see how well you're doing or where you may want to get more focused attention placed, we have this career preparedness quiz that's available at the organizedadmin.com website. And I encourage you to take it when you have a couple minutes, because this will kind of give you an overview of some of the key things you should be prepared for, or the key documents or tools that you should have in place to be able to accelerate and advance your career in the meaningful ways that you have in mind. Some of you may be familiar with the strategic planning process if you support corporate executives or boards of directors. And for the most part, to boil it down into a very simple formula, most strategic plans review 3 key areas. Where are you now? Where are you going? And how do you get there? And this is the same framework that we're going to use for creating your personal career plan this week and next week as well. So to define it, a strategic career plan is a combination of your personal vision, mission, and goals used to guide your professional growth and development. It's primarily designed for individuals who want to grow, remain competitive, and advance in their fields. And it becomes the mindset from which you make important decisions about how you allocate your time, money, and energy when you're pursuing your goals, which is what makes it so vital to your overall success. It also helps you analyze where your career is headed, better understand where you are now and where you want to be, and helps you then embrace that proactive approach to creating your own personalized strategic plan for your career. So what do you include in your career plan? Well, one of the best ways for me to go through this is to actually show you a OneNote notebook template that we've created that includes all of the components, but we can kind of talk through this in an overview format today, and then next week we're going to actually dig deeper into each of these specific elements and some of the key aspects of how to develop them. So let me switch over to OneNote here quickly. If you've never used OneNote, as you create your strategic administrative career plan, this is a fantastic project to get to know and understand and learn how to use OneNote with. So what we did was we took all of the components and all of the elements involved in creating a strategic career plan, and we plugged it into a digital notebook. So I actually recommend you have a 3-ring binder and a digital repository of some sort, just like I recommend when you're doing office procedures, because you're going to need some things in print format, you're going to have some things in digital format, and so you want your 2 systems to mirror one another. And I love OneNote because it mirrors the 3-ring binder. So across the top here, we have our tabs or our sections of information that are part of our career plan notebook. And for the very first tab here that I'm going to show, I've just got a nice cover sheet put on it. We've got some free templates that you can download from our online training center, and I'll share most of those with you next week during the 5-day challenge as well. And then an article for helping you get started on how to create a strategic administrative career plan. So the very first question that we ask when we're doing strategic planning is, where am I now? And that involves some self-assessment. So there's a series of questions that we ask to help you get started thinking through what is working, what isn't working, what would I like to have work better. I also encourage you at this phase to pull out any personality type assessments or strengths finder assessments that you may have taken in the past and insert them into your binders, because those will give you some key insights into what makes you uniquely you. And those are some things that you probably want to factor in to how you create your goals and objectives moving forward. And then if you aren't already, one of the things I encourage you to do is to create the habit of documenting your professional accomplishments on a daily, or at the very least, a weekly basis. One of the best ways to do that is to create a professional accomplishments document for each year. Save it either in your OneNote notebook or create a link with a shortcut to your desktop so you can quickly open it and update it on a daily or weekly basis as you're completing things or working on projects. No matter how big or small, get in the habit of plugging those accomplishments into a list so that at the end of the year, when it's time for performance review time, or you want to have a one-on-one, a meaningful one-on-one with your executive, you have a list that you can cull down to the best of the best to be able to share with them. I know for several years my husband has done this now, and a lot of times his professional accomplishments from this document get copied word for word from this document onto his annual performance review. So it's like helping your executive write your review for you. But this is important because these are things that also then need to be noted on your resume. things that you also can pull work samples from for your professional portfolio. So this becomes a fabulous outline of things that you do that by the end of the year, a lot of times we forget all of the details and things that we were involved in. So creating this habit now is a fabulous way to help yourself professionally moving forward. The second question we ask then is, where am I going? And this is, again, a little bit more of an assessment process. Why are you an admin? Why did you choose this field? What are your specialties or your niches that make you uniquely excellent at what you do as an admin? At this stage of the game, as we're starting to look at where are you going and what is your ultimate goal and target for your career, it's important then to analyze critical success factors, the skills, resources, and organizations involved in helping you achieve those things. Doing a SWOT analysis, looking at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for each of the targets that you're shooting for. And developing your own mission and vision statements. Now, I'm not going to go into this in depth today, but if you want to get a head start on day one material for the 5-day challenge, go to msb.franklincovey.com. It's the Franklin Covey Mission Statement Builder tutorial. It is one of the best tools I have ever come across for helping you create your personal mission statement. And this is a key component to helping you figure out where you're going next and potentially how you want to pursue getting there. The third question we look at then is, how do I get there? And we'll go through these in more detail in just a moment, but there's all kinds of ways, everything from certifications to education and training, books and publications you may want to read, association memberships, and things such as developing professional portfolios, both print, social, and digital. And then once you've gone through and analyzed all of the elements of how you could possibly get there, then it's time to identify what are the top 3 to 5 things I want to focus on first. So one example that I'll share, because it's part of my story, is when I made that transition from corporate employed executive assistant to self-employed virtual assistant, I had a targeted date in mind, and that was my overall career goal for that at that point in my life. So I had a whole bunch of things that I knew I would want to do or pursue to make that transition, but so that I didn't become overwhelmed and so that it was still a doable, achievable process, I limited myself to picking the top 3 to 5 career objectives that would help me get that accomplished by the date I had set. And so for me, those were attaining the Certified Administrative Professional certification, attaining the Organizational Management certification on top of that, attending a professional development conference for administrative professionals, and creating my professional portfolio. And I actually already have mine created, but I just needed to get it updated and ready for use as a virtual assistant. So these became my focal points for the next 6 to 12 months. And the way strategic planning works is every year you're reevaluating. In fact, if you're smart about it, you're on a quarterly basis checking in to see how you're doing against the goals and objectives that have been set. So if you're making progress, great. And if you get them all done before the 12 months is up, fabulous. Go pick the next 3 to 5. But keeping it limited to 3 to 5 is not overwhelming, and it keeps everybody moving forward in a much more productive way. So this is where you turn it into your actual plan. So you've got your career objectives identified. Your mission and vision statement can be plugged in here. There's an article that I've included on writing meaningful performance goals, especially if you have to tie this into your corporate or your annual performance review. Defining what your goals and objectives are, actually writing them out, and then putting them in specific pages where you can outline the plans of action then for how you're going to achieve those individual objectives. And then ultimately at the end of each year, highlighting what you have accomplished and keeping that saved in a place so that you can go back and look at historical data as well, not just the current years, but keeping this in an archive so that you have access to it. So this is the section that becomes your plan. This is where you check in and check things off and update the start dates and the due dates for the various objectives. And this is also where when you are working with a career coach or a mentor or an accountability partner, the two of you can sit down together and say, hey, what's working? What isn't working? Where do you need additional help or support to make this happen? I also like to include a section for ideas for the next year. And that's because a lot of times you just don't have time to pursue everything at the same time. You have to prioritize. So maybe I can't get to this year, but next year I want to look at some additional certifications in something more specific than just the administrative role as a whole. Maybe I want to do the Microsoft Office certifications, but I don't have time to pursue that right now. I'll research it later. This is a dump point for all of those ideas you come across or articles that you see or blog posts that you read. And when you install the OneNote clipper in your browser, you can actually send documents or screenshots directly from the web straight to this notebook and get them captured in that moment and then come back to them later to review them. So it's an awesome tool for capturing all of those little ideas that you come across that you want to spend some time on later doing a little more research on. And then I love to have a section in here for annual performance review. This is a regular recurring thing for most of us if you're still working corporately. And so it's one of those things that you should be preparing for throughout the year. This isn't just something that when you get the notice from HR that it's time to go into the system and update your accomplishments. This is something you need to be thinking about throughout the year. And so I've got some tips here on how to prepare for it, what to do on review day, after your review, past performance reviews can be saved here. Looking at if you have like a document or a tool that you have to fill in data on, you can save a sample here so that you have it, just keep plugging things in throughout the year as you think of them. And then some ideas for questions to ask during the review. And this is, again, these are samples here. You can come and replace this with your information. But this is a fabulous way to keep it all organized from start to finish. And then maybe what you aren't able to include digitally or you don't want to store digitally, keeping the hard copies in a 3-ring binder that corresponds with this gives you a comprehensive way of keeping track of all of the parts and pieces that make up your career plan. So let's look a little more specifically now at some of the elements that go into helping you get to where you want to go next. As we prepare for the 5-day challenge next week, I just want to talk about these a little bit so that you can start thinking about and researching some of these things that potentially may help you in achieving the career goals and ambitions that you have set for yourself. And one of the first areas we'll touch on today is certifications. A lot of people ask, are certifications a good thing, a bad thing? Do they help? Do you really make any more money if you get a professional certification? And the answer is, it depends. So one of the things I did, because I had a 2-year Associate of Arts degree, I felt like I needed a certification to add some additional validity, I guess, to my skills and experience when I was switching from corporate assistant to virtual assistant. And the one I chose to pursue at the time was the Certified Administrative Professional certification. It's offered through IAAP, which is the International Association of Administrative Professionals, and they have some specialties that you can add on to that once you get the main certification itself. If I were going back and doing it again today, I would probably start with the Microsoft Office certifications. If you're not familiar with those, you can become a Microsoft Office specialist in any of the individual Microsoft Office suite programs. So Outlook, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, OneNote, Access, all of them. And if you choose to, you can actually become a certified master, or I can't remember what all the levels are, but you can choose to certify in multiples of them and increase the type of certification level that you attain or achieve with that. And I think that is one of the most valuable ones for this reason, because without fail, when you say you're Microsoft Office certified in a certain program, everybody knows what you're talking about. There's not anybody who's working corporately at the moment who isn't familiar with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. Even if you're not using it, you know what it is. And so it adds a level of just a stamp of approval that, yes, this person can do what they say they can do on their resume. And in a lot of cases, if you look at I think it's Office Team that does the annual salary guide, a lot of times having certifications allows you to make a higher salary or to demand a higher salary because that certification is added to your name. So there's other ones. There's the PACE certification, which is the Professional Administrative Certificate of Excellence that's offered through ASAP, which is the American Society of Administrative Professionals. That's another really good one, very comprehensive overview type certification. There are specialties that you can get in like Certified Meeting Planner, Professional in Human Resources, and the one I forgot to mention that's also pictured on the screen, the Star Achievement and World Class Assistant programs through Office Dynamics. And actually some of those aren't really considered certifications as much as designations, and there is a difference. But when you're doing your research, look at all of them and make some charts and some lists of what appeals to you and what you think would be the most beneficial for what your specific needs are at this moment in time in relation to where you think you want to go next with your career plan. So again, this is not something you have to do. None of these things are things you have to do. These are all just options and things to think about and consider as you're putting your career plan together, things that can help you move it forward. Education and training. I'm a huge fan of local community colleges. They have a lot of great continuing education classes. I did a lot of business development classes when I was first starting my business through the local community college where we used to live. There's also online courses for administrative professional degree programs. For example, I think Madison Area Technical College is one of them that still has a good program going up there. So you can look at 4-credit options. You can look at just continuing ed options. It doesn't matter. There's also lots of seminars or conferences that may come through your individual city or area. You can look at those as potential options for additional training or development you may need. I'm also a proponent of looking into what your local Chamber of Commerce may offer, or local associations that have meetings or events that you don't necessarily have to be a member of the organization to attend. It may cost you a little bit more, but you can pick and choose the types of events that are going to be helpful to you and broadening your skills and expanding in some areas that you may not have thought of previously. And also don't overlook internal training that's offered within your own company. A lot of our companies have training departments that offer a lot of great resources. Be sure to take advantage of as many of those as you possibly can, especially the ones that are absolutely free and available for the taking. Publications and books to read. I can hear some people already, who has time to read? My response to that is you cannot afford not to, especially not in this day and age. There are all kinds of ways that you can work reading or media intake into your daily schedule. Everything from podcasts to books on tape to downloadable MP3 files. This is one thing that you cannot overlook. Whether it's consuming it in a book format or reading the headlines in the major trade publication that your company receives. I get the Wall Street Journal every morning, and even if I can't read all of the articles, which is rare that I would be able to do that or have time to, just reading the What's News column down the far left side that hits the highlights and gives you the headlines and the most important news of the day, keeps you informed. One of my favorite things to do when I'm working out is to watch news, to listen to podcasts, to listen to books on tape, or to listen to webinar recordings. So it allows me to work it in, doing activities I may not enjoy as much, but it helps distract me and get through them, like exercising, for example. The other thing, my husband is a great example of this. He uses his car time for his professional development, whether it's a random topic that he's interested in, or it's something he's specifically trying to learn, like a foreign language. He uses his commute time for listening to audios and CDs and things that can help him continue to advance his path towards achieving that goal he has set for himself. And if you're not already taking a lunch, just even force yourself for 5 minutes to step away from your desk and find something you can read or spend some time with. It doesn't have to be reading something from start to finish. In fact, the same thing with newspapers or articles. Get good at scanning. I actually took a speed reading course at one point in my career so that I could get better at figuring out how to scan an article and get the best stuff out of it the fastest. And a lot of times the first 2 or 3 paragraphs are all you need to get the essence of what's going on, or it gives you enough to know if you need to finish reading it or not. So same thing with books. I don't read every chapter of every book I touch, but I know how to scan them and find what I do need and how to get it consumed as fast as I can. Association memberships. I've already mentioned organizations like ASAP and IAAP, but there are a lot of others out there. There are organizations specific to assistance in healthcare or assistance in oil and gas. Every industry seems to have some specific groups or organizations. Do some research, ask around. The online groups on Facebook and LinkedIn are great resources for finding out, hey, where's another option for me to look into some professional networking and connecting outside of just my own company or my own area that I'm in. Project management groups, public relation groups, speaking groups like Toastmasters is another good one. Even local or community organizations like Rotary or Lions Club or United Way. United Way is not an association membership, don't get me wrong, but thinking broader about where you can interact and engage with people and expand your network at the same time. This can be one of those things, again, be discerning about what you choose, but do some research so you know what's out there and what's available to you. Mentoring and coaching. The first time I engaged with a career coach or a success coach was right after I had made the transition from corporate assistant to virtual assistant. And I had heard about coaching. It was starting to kind of become a thing that was popping up in more and more conversations, but I could not believe the difference that it made. I had probably worked about 1.5 years or almost 2 years before I engaged with a success coach once I started my business. And what I learned with the process of engaging with a coach was having, well, first of all, when you're paying someone to help you stay on track, you're more likely to stay on track because you don't want to be wasting your time or theirs, and you're paying money to get their coaching and advice. So there's that element of it. But also having somebody who has been through some of these things and can help you shorten your learning curve or help ask you the right questions to get to where you want to get to more quickly, instead of just sitting there and feeling like you're spinning your wheels for days and months and weeks on end. So I look at this as you can certainly engage with a mentor. Mentors typically are not a paid engagement. It's somebody you know, like, and trust that you've asked to work with you or to mentor you on a specific area. And it's both parties agreeing to do that and to work with that relationship. Or engaging with a paid career coach is another option. Or just finding a friend or a colleague who's willing to be an accountability partner. But no matter which option you choose or which one's right for you, this is where you take your plan from it really looks good on paper to career impacting results. Because when you've got somebody that you're accountable to that's going to be asking you, hey, how are you doing on this? Are you making progress? If you are, great. If you aren't, why not? It really helps move the needle and keep you moving forward. And so this is one of those things that I encourage you to consider or to think about or do a little more research on, especially if it's not something you've ever considered previously. Networking, online and in person. Both types of networking are required for your career success. And I get that not every personality type loves to network. But if you don't have a solid professional network in place, you are going to struggle. And it takes time and consistency to build a strong one. The good news is it's not hard to do. Just paying attention to your daily interactions with people, learning one little thing about them every time you connect with them. This doesn't have to happen in large groups. This can happen in our day-to-day interactions with every single person who walks past our desk or engages with us in meetings. There's other ways though as well, getting involved with local nonprofit organizations or groups that you have a special affinity for, and going through the mission statement development process will help you be more selective about the types of networking organizations that you engage with. I have a friend who volunteered at a local hospital, and was actually hired for one of their open positions when it finally came available. So this can be a way, again, to help people get to know you from a personality perspective, but also a skills perspective, depending on how you are volunteering and what types of skills you're sharing. And it doesn't have to be a great, big, scary, handshaking, business card exchanging event every time you do it. The other thing I encourage is to get connected online. If you're not already using social media strategically from a career perspective, the place you want to begin is LinkedIn. And I'll share a little bit more when we talk about professional portfolios here in just a moment. But if you haven't yet dipped your toes in the social media waters, or you think, I'm too old for that, or I'm going to be retiring in a couple of years, I don't really need that, I still encourage you to get a solid and complete profile created on LinkedIn. You never know what can happen, and even if you do plan to retire, a lot of people end up finding themselves pursuing secondary careers after their initial one. So this is something that can really help you. And again, from a being proactive perspective, you never know what you're going to need, when you're going to need it, and putting the time and effort into this now will pay off in big ways later. Retirement planning. This is something I have not been very good about in my own career planning, but this is something I need to get more diligent about in the immediate future. And one of the best ways is to talk to a financial planner or somebody who can give you some good, solid advice about what you need to do to prepare yourself for retirement. I hear a lot of times in training courses and things I'm presenting, people asking questions about things related to, well, especially when we're talking about procedures. Well, I don't need to do that. I'm going to be retiring in a couple of years. Well, retirement is something you can plan for. And whether that's putting a transition plan in place for your current position, for how it gets transitioned productively to the next person who's hired to do it, and or how this impacts you. Because if you don't have a big pension waiting for you when you retire, what are you going to do to fill the income gap? How does that work for you? And so from a career planning perspective, this needs to be a component of that. One of the other elements that I've included in the career plan OneNote notebook that we went through, and one of the things I encourage you to think about on your list of things in developing your career plan is how you are branding yourself. This could be an entire webinar all its own, but for the purposes of today and this topic, what I want you to think about is, what are the first 3 things you want someone to associate with your name when they see it at the top of a resume, or when they see it on a LinkedIn profile, or when they see it on a recommendation from somebody internally to pursue connecting with you for a job opening? What are the first 3 things you want someone to associate with your name, and write them down? And then use those key terms immediately under your name at the top of your resume, include them on personalized business cards, include them on your LinkedIn profile, and use this as a way of proactively branding yourself and creating that first impression that you want to give when somebody sees your name digitally. And where I even got this idea was from some office team brochures I picked up at a conference several years ago. I picked this one up that was talking about how to get Microsoft certified, I think, or working with office team to get some additional training. And it says, Nancy Schott, PowerPoint specialist, creative thinker, executive assistant. And I was like, wow, I've never met Nancy. I still to this day have never met Nancy. But the first things I think about her is, wow, she's really good at PowerPoint. She's a creative thinker and she's an executive assistant. All because that's what they told me about her the minute I saw her name. Same thing with Jane Kim, problem solver, organizational ace, team player. So think about what you want those terms or those first impressions to be when somebody sees your name or hears your name, and then work those into your marketing materials, your resume, your business card, your professional portfolio, your LinkedIn profile. The other thing I hear a lot of assistants say is they don't have or they can't get business cards for their current position. That is no excuse. Every single one of you can create your own personalized business cards. In fact, I don't care if you already have corporate business cards. I want you to create your own separate personalized business cards. Cards that you can use to market you separate from your current employer. Because A, sometimes things change. B, sometimes you need to be not using your corporate card to market yourself for the next position you're pursuing. It's a job on your resume, but it doesn't define you as a person. So being able to add this business card, you know, at the end of an interview, being able to hand somebody a business card that is personalized, that's about you, that reinforces, again, your personal branding statements right across the top. If they haven't already had a chance to connect with you online, to look at your LinkedIn profile, if you have a digital portfolio site, to be able to direct them immediately to that so they can see more samples or some other highlights that you may not have had time to discuss in the interview. Or if you're at networking events, or you're just out doing something fun on the weekend and you come across someone or something that is a person you need to connect with professionally, having personal business cards is a game changer for assistants. Not to mention, any conference you go to, there's going to be drawings and door prizes, and walking in the door prepared with your own personalized business cards just makes you look like you know what you're doing and that you're on target for being ready for those opportunities when they present themselves. Professional portfolios, if this isn't something you have already created or developed, this is something I strongly encourage you to put some effort into and to add to your top 3 to 5 criteria, objectives for your career plan. What a professional portfolio is, so first of all, I recommend a 3-pronged approach. I call it a comprehensive professional portfolio strategy. It includes a print portfolio, a social portfolio, and a digital portfolio. And the print portfolio is just what it looks like, a 3-ring binder or a leather-bound notebook of some sort with work samples that highlight and demonstrate visually the skills that you have on your resume. So it also includes things like your resume, if you have any professional recommendations, if you have profiles for like personality type assessments you've taken or strengths-based profiles, you can include those in here. Any training, professional development, educational things that you've completed, and then actual samples of your work, forms, templates, checklists, procedures. You're not sharing confidential things, certainly. And even if you work in an environment where, quote unquote, everything is confidential, I can still show you how to create work samples that qualify and can be used very productively in your professional portfolio. But having this print version of your professional portfolio that you can walk into an interview with and show visually, these are the examples and backup for the skills that I say I have on my resume, is so powerful. The social version of that then is LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is a great tool because you can add work samples to your job sections in here. You can also link it to PDF files. You can upload screenshots. You can link to external blogs or websites if you have articles published in other places or even on your own personal blog. And a lot of people ask why you can't just use LinkedIn as your digital portfolio also. The thing about LinkedIn is this: you are on here with all kinds of other people, and it's very easy for somebody to get taken to someone else's profile or into a completely different area of LinkedIn with just the click of a mouse. And that's the reason why I also like the digital portfolio as that third element that kind of wraps it all up. And a digital portfolio is a dedicated site that's all about you. You can create it for free at wordpress.com. In fact, I have a sample that you can look at julieperrine.wordpress.com to see what it might look like or how you might want to put yours together. And I created this when I was teaching assistants how to create these. So it's a demo site, but you can create this using information from your resume, from your print portfolio, and you are highlighting the best of the best here. So this isn't going to have every last thing about you. And there are some things you do to protect your identity and to make sure that you're not sharing things that are things that you wouldn't want just out in open web territory without some safety measures built in. And I talk about that when I talk about how to create a digital portfolio. But for the benefit of today's purposes, thinking about how you can create a site that highlights the best of the best about you, your skills, your abilities, the uniqueness that you bring to the table, and being able to put a personalized web URL at the top of your resume that says, Julie Perrine, Chief Excellence Officer, Personality Strategist, Administrative Professional, and the line right below that says julieperrine.wordpress.com. When they come to a site like this and can start learning about you, and every place they click on this site takes them to more information about you. As I like to say, they begin to fall in love with you before they've ever met you. And so this becomes a very powerful tool in helping you reinforce your personal brand, helping you navigate career changes, both ones you are pursuing actively or ones you may find yourself in unexpectedly. And it really helps you think more strategically about your career as a whole as well when you put a tool like this together. So that brings me to another very important point before we wrap today's session up, and that is, as you approach career planning, it's important for you to organize yourself for success. You've got to get yourself organized both in print and digital, and if possible, like I said with the OneNote notebook, having your two systems mirror each other. So for example, when you're creating your folder to organize your career documents, I recommend calling it something like My Career or My Career Plan, whatever you want to call it. And under that folder, creating subfolders for your business cards, cover letters, interview questions, your professional headshot, the documents that go into your professional portfolio, references information that you keep, copies of your resume, your social media sites, keeping a profile sheet for each one so that you have a document that you can just quickly copy paste your bio or your key components from when you're updating or making changes to those online, and then a section or a folder for your strategic career plan. And then a lot of these, like I said earlier, you're going to have some printed documents that go with these. So whatever you have in digital format, you should have something that mirrors in physical format, whether that's in a three-ring binder or a file drawer or whatever system works best for you. And then once you have all of this assembled, the things that you have only in print format, I want you to scan so that you also have them in digital format. And things that you only have in digital format, I want you to print so that you also have them in print format, because you cannot afford to lose these vital career documents. I can't tell you the number of assistants that I've helped with resumes over the years who come back to me 2, 3, 4 years down the road when something has changed in their career and they lost their job or they left their job and the only copy of their resume was on their work computer. I want you to have this stuff saved somewhere other than your work PC. It needs to be backed up in the cloud. It needs to be somewhere where you can access it from your portable devices, from your phone, from your tablet. And it needs to be somewhere that your company doesn't have ultimate control over. Because if you lose access to these pieces and have to recreate them from scratch, I can't tell you the amount of time and effort that's involved in doing that. And it's painful. It is dreadfully painful. So organizing your files sets you up for success from day one. And having them both in print and digital is your disaster recovery plan, quite honestly, for your own personal career. One other important point that I want to make before we wrap today's session up is it's important as we talk about career planning today and in the 5-day challenge coming up next week, that we begin creating new habits around creating time for career planning. If you target just 5 to 15 minutes each day to take action on one single element of your career plan, it's going to keep moving you forward. It may mean a few less minutes on social media or a few less cat videos on YouTube, but I promise you're going to be glad you did it. And forcing this habit daily makes it part of your routine instead of a separate time-consuming project or process. And one of the things that you can do to help make this a more integrated part of your daily activities is to install the relevant apps that you need on your portable devices so that your career plan and your career plan documents are easily accessible no matter where you're at. So apps like Word and Excel and OneNote, maybe Evernote, Kindle, webinar platforms that you may use for online training, whether it's Zoom like we're using today or GoToWebinar. Whatever you do, you want to make things as quick and easy to get to or to work on as you possibly can. The other thing is to keep it visible. So once you work through the career planning process that we're going to take you through in the 5-day challenge, I want you to post your career goal and the supporting objectives somewhere where you can see it daily. Now recently, I think it was actually just this week in one of the Facebook groups I'm in, somebody said that they use the lock screen on their cell phone to keep them motivated daily. And I thought, what a great place to post your goal and your objectives so you see it every day than on the lock screen of your cell phone. So whether that works for you or you choose some other location, find a way to keep it visible day in and day out, because that makes a huge difference in keeping it at the front of your mind and helping you make better choices about how you spend time, money, and resources related to moving yourself forward in executing your plan on a daily basis. So I've given you a high-level overview today of what your career plan should include. During the Design Your Career Plan 5-day challenge, I'm actually going to break it down into bite-sized chunks and guide you through the specific steps to get it created. If you've never participated in one of our 5-day challenges before, here's how they work. You're going to get an email from me each morning that highlights the details of that particular day's focus. And when you log into our online training center, then you'll be able to watch a short video. You can download the daily plan of action. For this challenge, we also have daily workbooks, and we'll have access to any of the resources or templates that we're sharing each day, all grouped together day by day on the challenge page. And then we also have a private Facebook group that you can join to share updates, ask questions, or connect with other participants in the challenge. On the first day, we are going to look at where are you now? And I'll help you get started with that self-assessment process, providing the questions and the things to ask yourself and to kind of think through and to start doing a little bit of journaling and self-reflection with. And we'll initiate that habit of tracking your professional accomplishments with the template that I showed you earlier. And I'll also show you the Franklin Covey tool for helping you get started with your personal mission statement. But that's when you can start today. You don't have to wait till next week. Just go to MSB, it stands for Mission Statement Builder, .franklincovey.com, and you can find that and get started with that immediately. On day 2, we're going to look at where are you going. We'll look at evaluating critical success factors, give you some tips on how to do SWOT analysis, and help you think more specifically about what your areas of expertise are as an administrative professional. Day 3, we'll cover how do you get there. So a lot of what we talked about today ties into day 3 more specifically, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a head start in thinking about some of those avenues so you can start researching some of them if you need to. And this is where you'll put all of the options on paper and then pick your top 3 to 5 objectives to work on first in pursuing your big career goal. Day 4 is where we map out the plan. We're going to take those top 3 to 5 objectives, create action plans around them, and then plug them into your system for helping you stay on track with getting them accomplished. And day 5 then is all about implementing. We'll talk about annual review time, job hunting, and then moving forward with your career development as a whole using your career plan. As I said earlier, every single one of us is one business decision away from having our professional lives changed unexpectedly. But you can take control of the situation more quickly if your resume is current, your portfolio is developed, your skills are current, and your network is alive and active so you can quickly transition yourself into a different company or opportunity. And your strategic administrative career plan contains the key information that will help you proactively weather the business decisions you least expect. I love this quote from Joan Burge. Security doesn't lie within a company, it lies within you. And the more prepared you are, the more job security you create for yourself. When I mapped out my personal career plan and put it into motion, my career leapt forward in ways I never imagined. I was making things happen instead of waiting for someone to tap me on the shoulder and tell me about the next opportunity. And it was one of the most satisfying and professionally rewarding feelings that I have ever experienced. And once you begin seeing this kind of professional and personal growth and development in yourself, there's no turning back. Now each year I hold a strategic planning session with myself to evaluate where I've been, where I'm going, and how I'm going to get there. And on a monthly basis, I revisit my plans and make sure I'm staying on track. And when I need to, I course correct along the way. But I still can't believe how much progress can be made in just 1 year. And you'll be amazed too. Every single one of us has a unique purpose and calling in this profession, and no two plans will look the same. But it should be perfectly suited to you, your personality, your strengths, your passions, your interests, and ultimately your career goals. And then it's there to guide you in making the right decisions about how to pursue opportunities for training, skills development, new positions, setting performance review goals, and how you spend 2 of your most valuable resources, your time and energy. A strategic career plan helps you reconnect with why you chose the administrative profession in the first place. And successful career-minded administrative professionals do not depend on chance. They choose to plan, they choose to grow, and they choose to succeed. So what are you waiting for? I've put together, and I've included this in your workbook for today, a proactive you plan of action. It takes a lot of what we've talked about already, giving you some specific actions you can take following this introductory webinar to get you started and help you be prepared for the upcoming 5-day challenge ahead. And it also gives you a way of helping you get organized so that you can start to put some better systems in place for how you keep track of those accomplishments and get some reminders on your calendar for updating your resume and reviewing your LinkedIn profile and installing the apps that you need where you need them. Another quick note, if you want to get started creating your career plan with the OneNote template that I showed you earlier, this is a template that we actually do sell in our online store. This webinar is free and the 5-day challenge is free, but the template is a paid program or a paid template. So you, as part of this webinar today, and as a bonus for being here, I had my team set up a 50% off coupon that you can use, and the code is career50. So I will say this, the template works best on a PC. You can download the OneNote package file, save it to the location that you choose on your PC, and then you can edit and modify anything in it from there. Or you can use what I showed you today as a starting point for organizing yours, and then just insert the documents that we send during the 5-day challenge and insert or create your own that way also. So this project is a fantastic way, as I said earlier, to learn OneNote and to gain some comfort level with it, especially if you haven't used it yet, because this is becoming one of those tools that you're going to start seeing more and more of in the days and weeks ahead in a lot of corporate environments as people start to catch the vision of how they can use it for a lot of other big project management and corporate uses as well. I want to thank all of you for participating, for joining, for engaging with us in today's event, and we look forward to having you join us again for the 5-day challenge.